it must be quite difficult when you're going in not just to the companies, but also to the regulators, as you've mentioned, but even to government and politicians, trying to get them to get their heads around the idea of why this additional stock market adds value.
So yes, you're right. We have these multiple pronged attacks. You're quite right. We work very closely with the regulator. We do a lot of lobbying and motivation around getting the South African regulation in line with best international practice. I think the job in terms of they acknowledge the benefits, they support the benefits, they draft in the regulation, but frustratingly, it is incredibly slow. If you think of a regulator that issued the first competitor exchange license in 2017, we're now sitting in 2022 and not one piece of enabling regulation has been released. We don't have overarching best execution. We don't have, we call it conduct standards for exchanges, which is a bit like MiFID, or in Australia would be, the integrity rules. So I think we are progressing. We are going to get there, but there's no doubt that we've got that one stream, lobbying the regulator to make the environment more enabling and easier. And the other side, of course, we are solutioning. How, in an environment where we could still wait for a couple of years, how do we resolve this problem? So we haven't just sit back and said, okay, wait for regulation to change. We have worked the companies to get them listed. We've worked the brokers. We've found solutions around the interoperability. And as I say, against some serious headwinds. And I think we couldn't have done that without our champion brokers, our champion issuers, and the support of the buy side.
Absolutely. You need to have your supporters, you need to have your champions, you need to have as many people on side as you possibly can manage. And I used to run an exchange in Transylvania, Cybec. We had a stock exchange, a futures and options exchange that also did warrants. We had a CSD and a form of central counterparty clearinghouse, and our entire budget was actually less than the Deutsche Börse spent on their annual general meeting and freebies for conferences around the world. So I think it's a kind of similar equivalent number, but actually that's a stunning headcount number. And I really applaud you for that, because South Africa has had some incredible exchanges that had very, very modest numbers of staff. I mean, the Bond Exchange, I think, was barely about 20 people, if I remember correctly. The SAFEX was running around about 35 or 36 when it was running really quite a cracking futures exchange and clearinghouse as a separate entity. 12 people, that's quite incredible. How do you manage to get that quite so low? Presumably your technology is outsourced and therefore you've really only got sort of systems administration or something.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously we licensed the Aqueous technology. It's hosted in an independent data center called Terrico, actually by the airport. And so really, if you think about what are our focus, post-trade. So we've got a 3-man post-trade team that makes sure that all works smoothly. We've done a joint venture with a local tech company to help build our post-trade system. We call it MICRAS. So, we've done deals to do that. So they obviously do a lot of the work. We bring the IP. We've got 3 people in, compliance and reg. We've got 3 people in tech. And then, you've got business development. You've got a CFO. Look, I would say that 3 to 4%, if we jump to 15, 20%, we probably will need to add a few more heads. And obviously, if we move into different markets, different asset classes, or if we move into primaries, we will need a bit more of a headcount. But I think, we've really concentrated on keeping it tight. There's always a danger with key man risk, but we've been fortunate. I think, we've got an incredible team of the right experience. I mean, probably some of the best experience in the country. You got to remember, right, with one exchange, pickings in terms of where you go to find people is not a huge number of them, right? So, we've been very fortunate to kind of literally handpick a couple of really good people. And on top of that, to have a culture fit and to have people buy into this dream, right? Because it is a dream initially when you start that, that we're going to make change. We're going to change the financial landscape in South Africa, and to buy into that and believe that they can be part of that journey and to challenge the status quo and to come up with innovation. I think we've been very fortunate. And on top of that, you need good shareholders, supportive, deep pockets, understanding shareholders.